This episode of Unqualified is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. On the drive to and from my parents' house in Washington State, we almost always stop at two particular McDonald's, one in Salem, Oregon, and another in Eureka, California. At the moment, we are in the parking lot of the Salem location, and I just finished a Big Mac and fries. Even though we are just passing through, I appreciate the familiarity and feeling of community. The other day, I was looking through my mother-in-law's photo album and came across a photo where she and her friends are standing in front of a McDonald's wearing their cheerleading uniforms. I usually call my mother-in-law New Mom, but her name is Marcia. Under the photo, Marcia had written a note, and I talked her into letting me read it here. San Bernardino, California. I have so many memories of this McDonald's over the years. My father took me there on what I think was opening day. What a thrill it was as a young girl to order a chocolate shake, hamburger, and French fries. Then there was the time when my cousin Hinda and I were given a tour and allowed to take dill pickles by the cupful out of a huge barrel. We must have eaten 100 pickles each. Everyone in my family knows the story of how I accidentally missed the ketchup container and dipped a fry into my milkshake. Now when I dip fries in my shake, it's on purpose. I remember when I was 12 years old, my mother and my cousin Noel Novak, Larry's brother, picked me up from dance class, and we went for dinner to celebrate Noel's graduation from high school. Years later, when I was in high school, we would go to McDonald's every Friday night after the football game. I wish you could see this photo. Marcia couldn't remember if they won the game that night, but everyone is smiling as if they did. Wherever your local McDonald's is, there's nothing better than that wonderful feeling of community. Well, maybe that feeling is tied with eating a Big Mac. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Right now. I'm recording. Mike is recording. I see the button is on, and I'm ready. Are you not, Sim?
No, we're not going to fill 9 minutes. We still have.
We're not filming. We're recording.
Phil, we're not going to fill 9 minutes.
This is, I guess, I'm not listening very well to you. But that, you know what? That's something that you don't do great either. Listening is not our strong suit.
You have no idea what we're doing right now, right?
Yes, I do.
What are we doing right now?
Right now, we're doing a bonus episode about fantasy football.
Yes.
And Sim.
You're going to look at your notes?
Matthew Berry.
Yes, Matthew Berry.
Who's the king?
Who's Matthew Berry?
He's the king of fantasy football.
Little more background on him. What is he?
What is he? He's a man born in America who enjoys fantasy football.
He works with ESPN. He's a senior fantasy sports analyst for ESPN.
Hey, everyone. I'm so delighted tonight to have Matthew Berry, who is the king of fantasy football. He also works for ESPN, and we're just couldn't be more thrilled. Actually, this is true. I don't mean to sound sarcastic because I'm just sort of ribbing Sim, but truly, this is a really cool honor for me because I get to grill him on things that I know nothing about, and I pride myself. Oh, Sim is signaling to Mike that he needs a wine glass.
Anna, I will have to say, though, you've really impressed me when it comes to football. The past couple of years, you really have shown some competence.
I am so resisting telling you to fuck off.
I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that you and Chris are essentially the biggest celebrity fans of Seattle Seahawks, right?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with your consistent underestimation of me.
You continue to surprise me. That's true.
After 16 years. You know what you don't do? Surprise me. You continue to be the ignoramus that I expect.
Enough about me, but honestly, I am really impressed with your knowledge, and I know you were excited about this. We are going to call Matthew
really
right now. We are excited about this because football season is around the corner, and more women are getting into fantasy football, right?
Do you know what I'm imagining you right now as?
Oh. What?
I'm imagining you as like an 8th grader in like your bedroom that kind of smells like a lot of sperm. You have an imaginary microphone and you're like, I'm a sportscaster.
That was me. I did that.
I totally
I wanted to be a
imagine you.
sportscaster growing up. That completely was me. I think I told you
I know.
that.
I feel like you're more excited about this than you are most
you
of
knew
the
how
time.
excited I was about Shaq.
Yeah.
Anytime we had we've only had one athlete.
Yeah.
Well, David Bautista, I consider an athlete as well. Matthew Berry, he's not an athlete.
I know, but he's incredibly knowledgeable, as you are as well. You see me tap into like my childish, like improv shit that I can't stop, and you're like, Anna, please stop.
I feel like you're doing this bonus episode just for me. You know, you're doing this because, you know what, I'll just humor Sim. What you don't understand is that I promise you people are really going to appreciate Matthew's advice.
I'm excited. I have a lot of questions to ask him. You know, I'm trying to learn about football. It's a fascinating game. And I don't know.
And your husband is also joining a fantasy football league, right? And we'll talk to Matthew about that as well.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you like about football? Like on a gut level, what do you like about football?
Okay, well, I feel like sports are the only real reality TV that anybody should be watching. It's the only thing that's completely unplanned. It's exciting. You can get behind something. It's something nostalgic from my childhood. I love everything about live sports. I love live football. Football is my favorite sport.
Is it? Okay, because I would have guessed maybe baseball.
Baseball, I'll watch during the playoffs and the World Series, and I'll follow my team, but I can't watch 162 games. That's ridiculous. Anybody that has time to watch 162 games during the regular season, 3 hours a game, there's no way.
Rank your top, 5 sports.
Nobody cares. No one cares about my favorite sports.
Come on. No, somebody does.
What's your favorite sport? Football.
Yeah, I do like watching football.
Okay, so we're close to calling.
But I don't know what's going on, but I still like it. We're close to calling.
Do you feel like you have trouble being a fan? Like you don't know what to say when you're watching a game?
Well, I don't. I'm not quite clear on a lot of the rules because there's a lot of minutia and illogical rules that don't make a ton of sense. But I do love attempting to sort of tap into. I like to sense how a team is doing emotionally.
Let's talk to Matthew about that because you brought that up to me before, and I thought it was super interesting. It's really interesting.
It's so sweet of you to say. I don't know.
I like it.
Feminine?
Because I like how you get into the heads, the minds of the actual athletes.
This episode of Unqualified is brought to you in part by ZocDoc. Who gets excited about trying a new restaurant that has 2 out of 5 stars? When it comes to finding healthcare, don't ratings matter even more? ZocDoc is a free app where you can compare doctors, read reviews from real patients, and even make same-day appointments. When I finally called to reschedule my dentist appointment, I was told that my dentist had been retired for nearly 3 years. In my defense, parking was a nightmare. Through ZocDoc, I found a new dentist who had great reviews, took my insurance, and whose office was actually within walking distance. I was also able to book an appointment instantly without talking to a receptionist who made me feel guilty about not having my teeth cleaned for 3 years. My new dentist didn't make me feel guilty either, and only suggested I floss a little more often. Whether you need a primary care physician, dentist, dermatologist, psychiatrist, eye doctor, or other specialist, ZocDoc makes healthcare easy. Now is the time to prioritize your health. Go to ZocDoc.com/unqualified and download the ZocDoc app. Sign up for free and book a top-rated doctor who might be available as soon as today. That's ZocDoc.com/unqualified. This episode of Unqualified is brought to you in part by State Farm. And in honor of their surprisingly great auto insurance rates, I'm going to tell you about a particularly surprising day on set. It takes me a long time to read a script. For almost every line of dialogue, I will stop to figure out why my character would say it, how it fits in the conversation, and how it's going to come out of my mouth. Between the lines, there are larger chunks of text which describe everything else happening in the scene. Maybe what a room looks like, what characters are wearing, and what they're doing. As I often underestimate how long everything in my life takes, I know I can make up some time by reading those larger chunks a little faster. I got the script for Overboard about 6 months before we started production. I read it in my warm living room, wearing comfortably warm clothes, sipping from a warm mug of tea. Somehow, it never occurred to me that when you jump off a boat in the middle of the ocean, the water is surprisingly cold. And it doesn't get any warmer on take 2. Here at Unqualified, we love State Farm because they provide coverage that meets your needs at a surprisingly great rate. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or go to statefarm.com for a quote today.
All right, we're calling Matthew Berry.
You're so much more generous with me than
You are with me?
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably true. All right.
So baseball, no more?
I like baseball.
Hello?
Matthew Berry?
Yes.
It's Sim. How are you? And Anna's here as well.
Hi, Matthew Berry. Oh my gosh, this is a big thrill.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Thank you for taking the time.
I'm a huge fan. I've been a fan of yours for years and years. I'm obviously you knew that because I sent you an email saying what a huge fan I am, and we're calling you because Anna is sort of getting into fantasy football. Her husband is getting into a league right now. Do you want to talk to Matthew about the league that Chris is getting into?
All right. So are we on right now? Just out of curiosity. I don't know.
Yes,
if
we
Yeah.
are. We're on. You're on right now.
We're recording, but we can edit out anything. If you want to say the word pussy, that's totally fine. And pussy, pussy, pussy.
Very appreciate that. That is a good heads up. That's a helpful.
I even say cunt on occasion. I'm sorry, Matthew. So my husband just joined a fantasy football league. It's his first time. So Chris Evans, John Krasinski, Anthony Mackie, and I can't remember somebody else. And I think that they've put up a little bit more money than my husband wants to tell me.
What's the buy-in?
I don't know, but I don't want to ask because I think.
You think it's like 500, 600?
You guys don't discuss finances or like?
Here's what I know. When Chris and I went to the Super Bowl in Arizona, when the Seahawks lost that epic game against the Patriots, I tried to console my husband and he revealed to me he lost a substantial amount of money to Chris Evans. So since then, I just don't inquire, which I think is a healthy way.
Probably smart.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Don't ask, don't tell.
Right.
Don't ask, don't tell. I get it. Well, I have a couple questions about the Celebrity League. So sounds very impressive. Sounds great. I know Krasinski a little bit, but not much. He's actually a ringer. He plays a lot of fantasy ball. This is probably his fourth league. The other guys I don't know. Is it like private? Like, did someone set it up, or is this like for publicity kind of thing? Like, is it a public league, or is it just like they're all just buddies?
Not public. They're all buddies. I think Chris Evans probably and John Krasinski set it up and recruited my sweet husband, who has never done this before. So I have a strategy. I want to know what you think about this. Should I get into this?
Yeah,
or not?
let's get into this right now. First, you should know, I'm sure you already know this, but Chris Evans happens to be a huge Patriots fan. And Chris is a huge,
and my husband,
Anna are huge Seahawks. They're from Seattle.
Yeah. Although I was born in Baltimore, so I still have like a Ravens loyalty a little bit. Okay, so my strategy, knowing nothing about how fantasy leagues work, I was thinking that I could secretly text Chris Evans and John Krasinski and Anthony Mackie, and my husband would know that I would be doing this. This would be the secret. Saying like, okay, you fucking dicks. You guys recruited my husband into this fantasy football league, which is going to take up all his time. I'm super pissed at you, but I'm more pissed at my husband. So here are his top picks.
Right.
But it's a trap.
Got it. They wouldn't actually be his top picks. They would be like bad picks.
Exactly. Like I would tell Chris Evans, like he wants to get Tom Brady immediately because he knows it's going to piss you off.
Give Matthew your strategy for drafting Tom Brady, because I don't think it's a good strategy. I have my own theory on this, but I want you to explain to Matthew what you want Chris to do.
I feel like if Chris Evans thought that Chris Pratt was going to draft Tom Brady immediately, then he would give up one of his picks emotionally because he has to have Tom Brady.
See, I don't think he's going to do that because I feel like Tom Brady shouldn't go until a much later round.
Right.
But Matthew, if we know that Chris Evans is really attached to Tom Brady, would it be a smart move for Chris to draft Tom Brady maybe in the third round early and then have him as trade bait?
I'm totally down with that. I'm on board. I get it.
They're going to hate me if I do actually follow through this plan.
And you know what? If they do, screw them. Who cares? They dragged your husband into this thing, right?
Right.
But it's also, I want my husband to win.
Right. Here's the thing. So that's what I would say is my advice. I always, in situations like this, so what's exactly the goal? If the goal is to try to screw with these guys, I think there's lots of different ways you can screw with these guys. If the goal is to help your husband who has not played fantasy football before win because you don't like him losing whatever sum of money they're playing for, and I assume given the people involved,
I'm sure it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's probably not $10. So my point is that I think what you guys can do, there's a couple of things that I would suggest you do if the ultimate goal is to win. So your husband's never played before. I can tell you, I have my own podcast.
Plug it. Go for it.
Yeah, ESPN Fantasy Focus, available at Pod Center or on the ESPN app or at iTunes. So anyway, we had Krasinski on our podcast, and not counting this one, I know he's in 3 leagues. He's like a hardcore player, so he gets it. I don't know about Mackey or Evans or some of the other guys you mentioned, but do you know, have they all played before?
I think so. I think my husband's the only one.
I'm sure he's the only one with no experience.
Yeah.
So understand that they all know this, and broadcasting on this podcast doesn't help.
But mostly women listen to this, so it's okay.
Yeah, but all you need is one. Somebody is tweeting. As soon as they hear this podcast, someone's going to tweet, at Krasinski or at Anthony or one of those guys and be like, trust me when I tell you, there's a bunch of weasels out there. They're all weasels. Mm-hmm. So they're all aware, or they will be by draft day, that your husband does not play. He has never played. So they are thinking he's the biggest fish in the world. This is easy money. This is dead money walking. So what we have to do is the first thing we have to do is put a little bit of fear in them.
By the way, Anna's taking notes. This is amazing.
I want to put fear in these motherfuckers.
Continue, Matthew. I'm sorry.
So you can edit this part out. But I will offer, because I'm a fan of Chris, I'm a fan of yours, and so I will offer my services as a personal coach to Chris.
Wow.
No way.
Oh, my God.
So now, he's not necessarily an inexperienced guy. It's the senior fantasy analyst for ESPN. That's my actual title, believe it or not.
Oh, my God.
The head guy,
Matthew,
the authority of all things fantasy football is going to be
my
Chris's
husband
personal coach.
Under your wing.
That's insane.
He was so bummed that he couldn't be here. Oh, my God. Matthew, that would be unbelievable.
Happy to do it. It's absolutely my pleasure.
If you're going to be Chris Pratt's coach, that means that he's your only celebrity client then. You can't coach anyone else.
You can't make him commit to that.
Well, let's see what he says.
Then I would have to say no. I'm sorry. I'm a lot of things, but I'm a loyal guy. So I have other people that I've been helping for years.
Are you helping Rappaport? It better not be Rappaport.
Michael has somebody that runs his team for him, but it's not me. No, I don't help Michael.
But Matthew, listen, he would love that. And I know he was so bummed that he couldn't talk to you today. He's doing reshoots for Passengers and anyway, but I know that he is going to be feeling a high level of competition coming into this as the newbie, and he's going to be getting hazed by these guys.
What hopefully that will do is we can announce that, and Chris can just be honest with it. So at least we're on an even level.
That's true.
What I'm going to try to do is try to teach Chris a little bit about fantasy football so that, it's all, give a man a fish eats for a day, teach him to fish eats for a lifetime kind of thing. So my plan is not to run the team for Chris, but help him out along the way so that by the end of the season, he feels really confident about fantasy football. Because it's something I'm happy to do because Chris is a big star. And if I want Chris to have a great experience with fantasy football, I don't want your marriage to hit the rocks. Love you guys as a couple, want to see you guys succeed. So it feels like there's a lot riding on this league. So I feel like it's my public duty to step in and help out here.
Matthew, how do you deal with people who are emotionally invested in their hometown teams? Because we're both Seahawk fanatics.
Right.
How do you get
It's a good question. I'm a New York guy, so I'm always drafting Odell first.
Right. And I think you can prey on your competitors with their hometown loyalties, right?
Right. So it answers your question. Again, it sort of goes to what's your ultimate goal, right? So if Chris Pratt's ultimate goal is to basically join the league, have fun, not embarrass himself, then I would say let's go Seahawks all the time. This is the team you're going to watch and root for. So we'll draft Russell Wilson, we'll draft Thomas Rawls, we'll go Baldwin, we'll take a late flyer on Jermaine Kearse, we'll reach for Tyler Lockett a round early. We'll reach for the Seattle defense early. We can do all that.
I like the way you're talking. It's very hot.
I appreciate that. Not something I often hear on podcasts. So if the goal is ultimately to win, then we have to divorce ourselves from hometown favorites. Because here's the thing, you guys are going to be rooting for the Seahawks regardless.
Right.
So you don't need to worry about that. Like whoever you own on your fantasy team, you're still going to root for the Seahawks. And I'm a Redskins fan. That's my team. But I own Dallas Cowboys. I'll play all sorts of players because I'm ultimately still always going to root for the Redskins to win if they're playing the Cowboys. But there's no reason that Dez Bryant can't have 3 touchdowns against the Redskins and the Redskins win 41-40. It just narrows what you're rooting for. You just have to root for a very specific outcome.
Has there been, not for you to call anyone out right now, but has there been an instance where you saw early on that a early draft pick was overrated?
Honestly, that's what I do, is I evaluate players based on where they're going in drafts, and I either love them or hate them. So I analyze and make a prediction on 300 players every week during the NFL season. And I've done it for 17 years now.
Ezekiel Elliott is a good pick, right? You would pick him over David Johnson?
I have David Johnson one spot ahead of Ezekiel Elliott. Yeah, but I don't think it's a bad pick.
Okay.
Again, that's one of those, it's like if you'd rather go Zeke Elliott, then I don't have an issue with that. It's all sort of personal preference as well. And that's what I would say. So I don't know Chris Evans, right? So I can't offer any insight into that. Is Chris Evans the kind of cold-hearted killer that he doesn't care about the Patriots? If you were in a league with me and you drafted Kirk Cousins, I'd be like, fine, I don't care. I'm still going to root for Kirk Cousins.
But so Chris Evans is probably going to want Tom Brady.
Yeah, they're both probably Chris Pratt and Chris Evans, although Chris Evans has played, I think, fantasy football for many more years.
Yeah.
They do have the same emotional hometown feeling, I suspect. So they may be playing a little bit on the same emotional level in that way, which may be their weakness, Matthew. So I love this idea of playing on an unemotional level with this.
This episode of Unqualified is brought to you in part by Osea. Wondering what to gift your friends and family this holiday season? Female founded over 25 years ago by a mother and daughter team, Osea's award-winning cleansers, serums, face moisturizers, and body products give you the results you want. Skin that looks and feels amazing. I recently got to try Osea's new body butter, which, like their now famous Undaria algae body oil, transforms dry skin without being greasy, has the same incredible scent, and leaves your skin soft, smooth, and healthy looking. If my experience is any indication, you can count on your partner giving you a lot of compliments. This holiday season, stock up and share your new favorite clean skincare and body care with your friends and family. Unqualified listeners get 10% off your first order with promo code ANNA at OseaMalibu.com. You'll get free samples with every order, and orders over $50 get free shipping. Gifting is always easier if you start early, so head to OSEAMalibu.com. Use code ANNA. This episode of Unqualified is brought to you in part by Warby Parker. Warby Parker was founded with a rebellious spirit and the lofty goal of creating boutique-quality eyewear at a revolutionary price point. Sunglasses, with or without a prescription, start at $95 and, just like eyeglasses, are available through their home try-on program. You just choose 5 pairs and see which ones you like. I was surprised by how quickly they arrived, which presented me with the immediate problem of deciding which ones to keep. I loved all of them, so you can guess what happened. And not only can you feel good about how cool you look, you can also feel good knowing that for every pair of glasses sold, Warby Parker distributes a pair of glasses to someone in need through partnerships with nonprofits like Vision Spring. Offering eyeglasses, sunglasses, contact lenses, and eye exams, Warby Parker is committed to providing exceptional vision care online and in stores. So put your FSA or HSA dollars to good use on Warby Parker prescription glasses, prescription sunglasses, contact lenses, and eye exams. Try Warby Parker's free home try-on program. Order 5 pairs of glasses to try at home for free for 5 days. There's no obligation to buy. Ships free and includes a prepaid return shipping label. Try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free at warbyparker.com/unqualified. That's warbyparker.com/unqualified.
Chris wanted me to ask Matthew about some late round sleepers and where should he draft Big Ben? He really likes Big Ben a lot.
I'm not as high on Big Ben as other people are this year. So this is one of those things like I don't know how much you guys want to nerd out on your podcast for your audience. I'm happy to get down in the weeds with stats as to why Ben Roethlisberger isn't great.
I would be happy to do that. I think we're going to bore every one of our listeners if we do that, but I'd be happy to, yeah.
No, fuck no. This is awesome.
So we do these things called consistency rankings, like in a standard 10-team league. How often does a quarterback finish as a top 10 player in a given week at his position? So in theory, what you would want to do is if there are 10 teams in a league, the 10 quarterbacks that should be started that week should be the 10 highest scoring quarterbacks. So over the last 3 years, Ben Roethlisberger has been a top 10 starting quarterback in any given week, 33% of the time. It's a very low percentage.
Yeah.
For example, Russell Wilson is somebody who actually is over 50%. Drew Brees is over 50%.
Right.
In that particular category. So he has some big games, but he also has some real stinkers. He's got a couple of his weapons that are, one's out for the year, one's hurt.
Antonio Brown can't do everything for him. So, I mean, Antonio
Correct.
Brown he's still going to be, would you say he's a consensus number 1 overall?
Yes, he is the consensus number 1 pick. So
okay.
What I'm happy to do, if you guys want, and even if you don't, you should say this because I think it'll intimidate that league. I'm happy to have a sort of total nerd conversation with Chris, and we can do this off air so that we're not boring your audience with a bunch of nerd stats like what I just did. What I was going to say to your female audience, and what I would suggest for you, if I may, and to anyone out there listening who's just like, oh, it sounds so stat heavy, it's nerdy, I can't do it.
Yes.
I promise you my wife knows less about sports than you do, Anna.
Doubt that.
She joined a fantasy league 3 years ago, obviously because of what I do. She, A, loves it, and B, it was a way for her to understand the NFL. It sounds like you're somewhat of a sports fan. You're at least a Seattle fan. You just never played fantasy football, right?
Right. There's a lot of things I love about football. I know this sounds like I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about, which is very true, but I do feel like I can gauge the morale of a team. Okay. I love a young, but hungry team as opposed to sort of an older establishment team. And those seem to me like the most interesting games when you've got a team like the Seahawks or the Panthers and the Cardinals versus the Patriots or, Green Bay Packers or like these older establishment teams that have a lot of structure in place and a bit of old school mentality. And then you've got these highly experimental, interesting, young, hungry players that are incredibly quick. I don't know. There's something delicious about watching that and that level of hunger. I can relate. It sounds so fucking ridiculous, but I sort of relate to it as an actor. Just the idea of let's prove ourselves. And in the hierarchy of the older establishment teams, so you get a lot of defensive and to some degree offensive players that don't necessarily feel the same drive towards leading a team to a championship because there's one hero, there's a king. And that's how I look at it as a woman.
Sports is emotion, right? And it's passion. And I feel like, I want to say it's a Lombardi quote. I could be wrong on that, but it's something about defense is all about who wants it more. And that's one of those old sports cliches about who wants it more and who's going to get up for the game. But there is a truth to that. Who's going that extra effort? They're all elite athletes at that level. Sometimes it's coaching, sometimes it's performance, but ultimately it's also about passion and hunger. And football is sort of this, primal sport. There has to be, some level of sacrifice. And to your point, Anna, about proving yourself. I'm not an actor, but I have a lot of friends that are. I think it's similar in most walks of life, right? That the people are successful are, I'll just take myself, for example. I think I'm pretty good at what I do, but I honestly think the reason I'm at the position I'm at is because I just outworked everyone. I just wanted it worse than everyone else. And when fantasy was, very in its infancy, I was hearing from a lot of media companies were like, nah, that's nerds and it's people in their basements, in their mom's basements, blah, 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 all those bad stereotypes. I kept, ignoring the no's and kept knocking on doors and eventually got to ESPN and eventually got them to listen. And many years later wound up on a podcast with you two.
Okay, so wait, before we have a few more questions to ask you.
Can I ask Matthew one question before we get into? I have to ask her. Do you have any idea what a dream this is for me?
I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just have one question.
Okay, fine.
It's really important.
Okay.
My girlfriend Amy, we've been dating for about a year now. So her family is really big into football and fantasy football, and they have their own league. I was invited into their league, and I said I'll only do it if Amy does it as well. So she begrudgingly said yes. I want to get her excited about this league. I want to get her excited about football. And I just wanted some tips from you. I know that, you said your wife doesn't know much about football. How do you get someone excited about football and fantasy football in general? Like, she's nervous about the whole draft process and the fact that she doesn't know the players. What do I tell her to kind of, calm her down?
Here's what you would tell her. And I would give this advice to Anna as well, because I want Anna to play fantasy as well.
Yeah.
That's the goal, is to try to suck Anna into a league before I get off this podcast.
Then that might mean that I hog you to myself, Matthew.
And so what I would say, Sim, for you, in terms of your girlfriend, is I would say, look, there's a reason that almost 50 million people play this between the United States and Canada. They're not crazy. 50 million people.
Yeah.
Between the United States and Canada, 12 plus. And the reason they do that is because it's fun. It's really fun. So her fear is well, I'm not going to know the players, right? She has a fear of it.
Right.
If I'm interpreting correctly, she doesn't want to look dumb, right? She doesn't want to look like, quote unquote, the dumb girl that doesn't know sports.
And her family is really competitive. They're a family of overachievers, and she's also an overachiever
smart.
in her own right as well. So if she's very competitive, so of course she wants to win, but she doesn't have the knowledge that everyone else has.
Understood. But here's what I would say to her. First off, you're bringing the knowledge. So she's co-owning a team with you. So don't worry about it.
She will be drafting her own team.
Get her a ranking sheet.
I'll give her your top 300.
So give her my ranking sheet. Hopefully it matches up with the scoring of her league. But if all she does, and she doesn't know anything, if all she does is she takes my rankings, what she should do is literally, as the draft goes along, literally just cross off names on the list as they get picked. And when it's her turn, she should pick the highest remaining player on that list. I don't know that that's a championship team, but that will be a team that does not embarrass her.
Gotcha.
That will be a team that will be able to that will compete, that'll be sort of middle of the pack. And what my wife found, because my wife had the same fears.
Yeah.
What my wife found is similar to if you say I don't speak a language. Well, we drop you in a foreign country where you don't speak the language, you'll figure it out pretty quick. It's like a crash course. And so I always say one of the great things about fantasy football is if you're a football fan, it gives you more of a rooting interest. It makes you enjoy football that much more. If you're not a football fan, it gives you a reason to watch and to enjoy. So my wife, who was never a sports fan and never enjoyed and never understood it, now understands. She didn't understand all the nuances and everything like that. But now she knows, I've got that quarterback playing, and I'm playing our son like we play with our kids. She's I'm playing, David, and he has the running back on the other team. So now she's got a rooting interest to watch that game.
Right.
So for someone like Amy, I think what you can say is look, honey, one of two things happens. Either on Sunday I go off on my own and I watch football all by myself, but now if you're playing this is time we can spend together. You and I can watch
I love it.
together on Sunday.
Why are you laughing, Anna? Don't laugh.
No, because it's a wonderful way.
Why are you laughing? I think it's a great idea.
I do because truthfully, I really love watching Sunday football. Well, I love sort of doing around, and I'll check in every once in a while Chris is watching Sunday football, because it means that I sort of get to do my thing, and then I'll pop in and check the score or whatever. I love the tradition of that kind of relaxing Sunday.
So Anna, that's what I was going to say, is that if you joined a fantasy football league, it's something that you and Chris could enjoy together, because you're obviously always going to watch Seahawk games. But now you might watch a Cardinals game because you own Carson Palmer, or a Steelers game because you own Ben Roethlisberger, and suddenly you have a rooting interest in those games, and those games become more fun for you to watch.
Okay, I'm writing down Carson Palmer.
I named my dog after Carson Palmer.
This is a question that I didn't run by Sim, but Matthew, if you could eliminate what you view as an arbitrary rule in the NFL, what would it be?
An arbitrary rule in fantasy football, or just the NFL?
Just the NFL, like coin toss, or I don't know. I mean,
I think the celebration rule is ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
What is that?
You scored a touchdown. It's entertainment. Like, let them do anything they want. Who cares? There's all these rules about can't use the ball, can't use props.
They get penalized if they do a dance.
Oh, that's horrible.
Like, let them go nuts. Let them do whatever they want. Let them show personality. These athletes are out there. They're risking their lives. It's a violent sport. They're under helmets. There's so few players that really pop in terms of national recognition because of that. Like, somebody's got a cool touchdown dance or a move or wants to do something, like, let them do it. Who cares?
And I would even love to see a penis every now and again. I mean, I wouldn't actually really, because it's kind of traumatizing.
As you're watching a game?
I don't know. I'm just wondering.
Cut to Anna's Twitter suddenly getting tons of dick pics.
Oh, please. Oh, God, please, no.
That's happening right now. Like, just nothing but like a bunch of athletes going to slide into your DMs. That's happening.
I just want to be an innocent person. Allison Janney showed me like a big dick pic that her friend sent her yesterday. And I was just like, oh, God, can I rewind the last 30 seconds and could I have never seen
This
that?
is Allison Janney's friend's dick pic?
Yes. And I was just like, what?
Why did Allison Janney's friend send her a
Oh,
dick pic?
because, they
That's
do
what
that.
they
And then
do?
she was just like, hey, Anna, check this out. And suddenly I'm looking at, I want to maintain, I just want to be as innocent as I can be. Please. Anyway, but they should be able to dance and celebrate.
But I think, Sim, can I ask a follow-up on Sim's question there?
Absolutely.
So I understand, like, whatever, Allison was just showing it to you, like, can you believe this? But why did the friend send it to Allison? Does, like, Allison like those pictures?
Oh,
Yes.
you want to talk about the dick pic?
Yes. Why is...
Yeah. But, well, Allison has lots of dear gay friends, and they like constantly want to shock her with huge dick pics, and then she feels the need to show them to me, and she'll pose it as like oh my God, you're not going to even believe this. Look at this. Like, I'm about to see something like a serious, like, suicidal note from one of her friends or something. And then suddenly I'm staring at someone's huge penis, and I just don't want to do that. My mind is already way too fucked up as it is. I don't need any more complication in it. Okay, so wait. Matthew, if you have a couple more seconds.
Yep.
We do a segment on the show called DealBreaker or Not. So
Yes. So
we're doing
imagine
a
you're
fantasy
single.
football edition for you.
Imagine you're single. Okay, you're having a Super Bowl party, and this is imagining that you're single without 5 children.
Yep.
You're having a Super Bowl party, and in the middle of a tight game, your girlfriend of 6 months says adamantly, "You got to put the burgers on the grill now."
DealBreaker or Not?
Deal breaker.
I like it.
Because can I?
Yes,
of
yes.
course. Does the segment? Are you allowed to?
Yes,
elaborate,
yes,
or
yep.
is it just
Totally.
No, you're allowed to elaborate.
My girlfriend saying that at that moment has established 2 things. She doesn't understand me, right? This
Right.
game is super important. I'm hosting. I'm the host. Nor does she trust me because I've figured out the burgers. I'm not going to want to cook during the game. I know I'm going to want to watch every second of the game. I've either bought them before or I've got someone cooking. I've figured out the burgers if I'm the host.
I love it.
She's saying in that moment, she's saying, I do not trust you, so you don't understand me at all. You're not a match.
I got to tell you, that would be a deal breaker for me, and I'm not even like a big, like someone demanding attention during something that's really important to me.
Right.
Of course, that would be a deal. But
Yep.
maybe she gives an amazing blowjob. I don't know. We haven't explored that part.
But if you're 6 months in at that point, then you're sort of over that at that point.
Even at 6
Ooh.
months, I like that. That
Do we want to explore this with Matthew or keep going?
well, I like it that because I'm a terrible blowjob giver, so I'm grateful that that's only appealing for less than 6 months. So I guess I've crossed that line with my sweet husband.
No, I mean, listen, there has to be more than that. I mean, it depends on other factors or whatever. I suppose at some point that runs out, right? That's all I would say. Is that, whether it's 6 months, whether it's a year, or at some point, like a real relationship needs more than just that to sustain it.
You're a good man.
I try.
I like you. You're a good man. Okay, next question. After your team loses the Super Bowl in the final seconds, she tells you, "It's just a game."
Yeah, that deal breaker.
I may have done that with Chris. In a version of that.
You did that during the Super Bowl?
Not quite, but
That would be the worst
No,
time to do that.
I didn't do it. But right after the Seahawks lost to the Patriots in Arizona, when we were there, I was just like, "Oh, baby, it's going to be okay." I didn't say it's just a game.
You didn't say it's just a game, because that'd be the worst thing you could say.
Yeah, but
you're comforting him is one thing. That's fine.
Yeah,
you should do that.
But I didn't do a great job. And he said, he grabbed me by the shoulders and he was like, "You need to let me grieve." I heard that and I was like, "Oh, yes." And because I was grieving too, but I just wanted him to feel better.
Right. No, that makes sense.
But not by giving him a blowjob. But
that's not being a team player. I was going to say that's at the point. That's where you start getting naked and just let's not talk and let me take his mind off of it.
There you go.
We were still in the stadium though.
Even better.
No, I said it way too soon. I just want you to be happy. But he was like, "You got to let me grieve." I should have really.
How long did he grieve? Because that was a tough loss.
It was a tough loss. And we were there with Chris Evans. Yeah. Yeah. So that's why, Matthew, we really need your help this time around with the fantasy football. Okay.
Yeah, no, done and done.
2 more questions. She buys you a jersey of your favorite team with her name on the back and presents it in front of your guy friends while you're watching a game.
Not a deal breaker.
Oh, I like that.
Right.
That's cute. That's cute. All right, I like that.
Here's why. I mean, really bummed, never wearing it before. We'll get endless amounts of crap from my buddy.
Sure.
But I feel like that one is more about misguided. That's more like trying to help, but just misguided. Trying to be supportive and just in a misguided way versus look at me, I'm most important. I don't care about your needs. It's all about me. I feel the first 2 examples were just more about the girl, and this is more like, here, honey, we're in love, and here's your favorite team. I know enough to know the Redskins your team, and it's my name on the back because we love each other, and look, I got a matching jersey, and it's cheaper than tattoos, and you know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like it's bad form, but it's misguided bad form.
Even though you might get hazed by your guy friends, I love it.
He's
I love
a sweet
that.
guy. He's a really good guy.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's very sweet. Okay, last question. Would you give up your starting quarterback or sex for the entire season?
My quarterback, what are we talking about?
I guess quarterbacks are really deep this year, aren't they?
Exactly. I mean, this is a little fantasy tip that the quarterback position, this is one of the things I'm going to tell Chris, is we're waiting on a quarterback. Wait on a quarterback.
I agree.
There's probably 20 good quarterbacks this year for fantasy. You're in a 12-team league. There's going to be a lot of quarterbacks. So I'll give up my starting quarterback. I'll just grab somebody off the waiver wire.
You can pick up a Tyrod Taylor really late. He'd be a good quarterback for you as well. So it'd be fine.
Even if you're saying you have to play without a quarterback for the whole season in fantasy football or give it up. I'm no, whatever. Look, fantasy football is supposed to be fun, but
But sex is completely different. Exactly.
Come on, stop.
There you go. All right.
I like that.
Well, we know where Matthew's priorities are.
In a good place.
I appreciate that. Lots of therapy has gotten me there.
Should we do one last one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, you've got your best guy friends over. Your girlfriend, and let's say she's a relatively new girlfriend, is doing an amazing job serving guacamole and beer. Yet she keeps loudly commenting on the sluttiness of the outfits of the cheerleaders. Oh my God, they're so slutty and they don't even get paid anything. What? So they're just high school, obnoxious sort of female hating on whatever. Is that a deal breaker? And all the guys are just kind of silent because they don't want to engage because she's clearly mad.
All right. So I have a 2-part follow-up to ask. Can I ask some more details about the scenario?
Sure.
Have I asked her politely not to, hey, honey, we're watching the game. Do you mind? Have I said something like that and then she's completely ignored it? She's flown past that?
Yep, she's past it. She's a little buzzed. She just is she's clearly a little jealous of the sexy girls, but she doesn't want to admit that, so she's kind of ragging on him.
Yeah. Right. I guess, to be honest, that's maybe a deal breaker. It would depend on where I was in the relationship with her and and sort of how I felt about her and sort of how frequent the comments were and everything like that. Because there's 2 sort of things going on there, right? So one is just rude that you're interrupting the game. Hey, I got the guys over. But who knows if all the guys are BSing and they're talking about their fantasy teams or they're talking about the chicks as well in a different way, whatever. Then we're all just commenting on the cheerleaders. If everyone's just sort of silently watching, it's the 4th quarter of the Super Bowl kind of thing, it's going on, you're all right. The other thing is like, you always sort of like, why? To your point, like, Anna, you're like, oh, she's jealous. So like, you have to think like, is this a girl that for some reason, a woman that I have somehow, feels really insecure, has self-esteem issues or something like that? Like, where's it coming from? Is she just so narcissistic that she doesn't want me to have fun with my buddies?
Right.
And so she's trying to draw attention away from her? Or is it coming from an insecure place because...
Matthew's really analytical. I feel like it's not just about fantasy football for him. I feel like he analyzes
this is
life in
good.
general.
Do you listen to the podcast, Sim? You said you did, right?
I do. I told you, I'm a huge fan. I've been a fan of yours for years.
I'm very flattered. So anyway, like on the podcast, I actually do dating advice, like goofy dating advice like this every once in a while, mixed in with the football. So it's the result of, a failed marriage, currently successful second marriage.
Oh,
we're in the same boat.
We're in the same boat.
Anyway, if she's like really insecure, like this is going to be me, but like, let's say, for example, like I don't know what's going on with Chris Evans, right? But since we brought him up, like Chris Evans, he's a good looking guy. He's a movie star. He's world famous, right? So I could see like somebody dating Chris Evans, like being really insecure about like, oh my God, you probably dated like supermodels and all these things. And then like, so I could see that scenario playing out with like somebody like Chris, so you're just sort of like, like you want to be gentle, and understand like sort of where the motivation's coming from. But if they're doing it just to, be narcissistic and kind of bitchy, then yeah, deal breaker.
Can I call in sometime to your podcast and be the obnoxious girl because what I like about the last question is that this woman is proud that she's serving your friends her homemade guacamole and homemade fried chips or whatever. But then at the same time, she's knocking and sort of taking down the cheerleaders that are sexy and cute. And that kind of juxtaposition is kind of amusing to me. Is that fucked up?
All of us are like complex people, right? Very few people are very black and white, because I'm sure like in that scenario, not to get too deep in this fake woman that we've invented, but there's probably like that's all that's going on. Like, I really like this guy and I want to like impress his friends. And so he's having his buddies over on it. I want to prove that like I'm a cool chick, and like I make this guacamole and I'm in a cute outfit and I did my hair and the whole thing. But on the other hand, like, oh my God, like maybe he's over there and like she comes in, she's bringing beer and saying like, oh, remember Madison? Oh God, that chick was so hot. Why'd you get rid of her? And she overhears something like this.
Ooh, this is good. This is a good play role.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm getting all into it now. And what are they wearing? And right, it's the 4:00 game. And so then then she gets a little insecure as well. Like we're all human. We're all fragile beings on this planet.
Have you ever met that girl who comes to a Super Bowl party or a football party and she, like, you can just tell that she just kind of studied up the night before about the players in the game and she's just kind of regurgitating stats just to sound like she could belong? Have you ever encountered that girl before?
I love sports. No, I'm serious. I love sports. Like, I grew up in like a sports family. Like my dad, my 3 brothers, we all fucking love sports. Like every one of them. Yeah, no, and I kind of like know everything about
sports.
About sports.
I like the sports teams.
Yeah.
My favorite player is like Peyton Manning, because I've heard of him.
Yeah, exactly.
Peyton Manning, he's really awesome, but I kind of feel like he's sort of lost his steam. I'm so much about Aaron Rodgers right now because I feel like he's got a lot to prove, what with his brother being on The Bachelorette and whatnot. No, sorry. Listen, I'm being like, yes. I'm like you're throwing my own gender under the bus.
I know, but it's really funny though. It's funny that you're doing. Yeah,
well, yeah.
I like it when women admit that they know nothing about the sport and they want to learn. That's my favorite, because when men are able to teach them and they feel like the sense of, I feel amazing. Yeah, especially if they're pretending to pay attention to me when I'm talking about football. It's amazing. I love that feeling. You're making me feel like I'm important for
you are important. You are heard.
Anyways.
You are heard, Sim.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah, to answer your question, Tim, I have met the woman. I dated that woman. After my first wife and I divorced, I typical bachelor, like I dated up a storm up until meeting my second wife. I got my job at ESPN right around the time that my first wife and I were separating. And so like I was starting this whole new life. There would be women that I would go out with that, and they would literally say to me like, oh, well, you're on ESPN. And I'd be like, yeah, like ESPN is what I do for a living. And I love sports, obviously, but like I have other interests. You don't have to, you're into it or you're not. So I used to live in Hollywood, and I always felt like you go to a party and they'd be like, oh, what do you do? Like, it's always like the second question when you meet somebody. And you can immediately tell, like, whether they're a genuine person or they're just like, oh, you're not important enough. You know, and they're quickly like, scanning the room. Like, depending on what you'd answer. Like, sometimes they'd be like, I'm a grip. And they'd be like, oh, great. Excuse me for a second. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure, Anna, you and Chris deal with that a lot, that you probably, like, they're a fan of one of yours, but not necessarily the other, but they'll try to bullshit their way through, the other one's career or something like that. Like, I don't know if that, I feel like that probably happens to you guys a decent amount.
If we ever went out, it would. We sort of hole up here. But yeah, people need the 30-second assessment of who you are and what you do. If it doesn't satisfy them, then they're ready to move on.
Yeah, totally.
Matthew, I can't thank you enough for doing this with us. Number one. Number two, I am desperate for your advice. I would love for you to, I don't know if you have the time to come hang out with us or whatever, but I would love for Chris to fucking kill this fantasy football shit against all these wonderful dicks that he's playing against. I love it that you were so game for all of these lame questions that we had for you.
Anna, anytime you want to come on the podcast, I'll arrange it through Sim or whatever. We'd love to have you.
I would love to be on it, but will I be of value? Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, sure.
Of course.
Well, Sim, you listen to the podcast. You tell her.
Oh my God, you're going to have a lot of fun. If you listen to this podcast, it's not just talking about fantasy football. They talk about everything else too. Matthew, you should come over here. Oh, I don't know when you're going to be in LA next.
Yeah, when are you?
You should hang out with us for sure.
I'm pretty much locked here in Connecticut for the next 6 months. But I get out to LA a decent amount during the summer. I'm at the Super Bowl every year. So if you guys were at the Super Bowl this year, that would be a lot of fun because that'd be great. I'd love to come and meet you guys. So,
do you like Pete Carroll?
Pete Carroll's a great coach. No question about it. Their general manager, Seattle's general manager, a guy named John Schneider, and his entire staff is incredible. The front office of the Seahawks is really amazing. It's a really well-run organization.
And Russell Wilson, as far as fantasy quarterbacks go, where would you put him? Where would you rank him?
He's my number 3 quarterback this year behind Cam Newton and Aaron Rodgers. So he's number 3 for me.
So Aaron is your man, huh? I like him a lot, but
Olivia is a friend of the show and a friend of ours. And, and you got to hang out with Aaron Rodgers in Atlanta.
Yeah.
From talking to him, do you think he's going to have a great season?
I think he will, but I don't know what kind of mental stamina it takes to be that kind of leader.
Well, he'll have Jordy Nelson this year. I feel like Aaron Rodgers is going to have a good. I mean, he's.
And how are you feeling about Tom Brady?
I think Tom Brady has a huge year too. I mean, he's obviously going to miss the first 4 games due to the suspension, but he's my number 5 quarterback, and that's even missing the first 4 games. So I've talked about this a lot on the podcast or on various shows. That Tom Brady plus 4 games of a replacement level quarterback, which means just somebody that doesn't get drafted that you would just pick up, is easily a top 5 fantasy quarterback. So I do think Aaron Rodgers. Can I tell you? I have a quick Aaron Rodgers story if you want.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So whatever. You never know who knows who, and whatever. I'm the fantasy football guy, but so a couple of years ago, I'm at the ESPYs, and I'm at an ESPYs after party, and there's Aaron Rodgers, and I'm normally not, I'm not a big star fucker, and I tend to actually love to not meet players that much because I have to evaluate them and talk about them on air. So I'd rather not if I like them and they suck, I'm just So I actually try to avoid meeting players when I can, but that's Aaron Rodgers, right? And he's best quarterback in the NFL. He's amazing. I'm a big fan of his. And so I'm sitting there and I'm talking with a friend of mine, and he's sitting there, and at the time he's single and he's talking up a young lady. So I don't want to screw up his game either. This is many years ago. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, how do I approach Aaron Rodgers without A, screwing up his game, or B, being a total douche, right? I just can't. I got to figure that out. But I do want to meet him because I'm a big fan. And when's the next time Aaron Rodgers and I are going to be in the same room? I'm talking with a friend, and my friend's like, can we go get a beer? And I'm like, no, I'm trying to figure out a way. You have to stand here so I don't look like a total stalker freak, I'm waiting to see if, Aaron stops talking to this girl or whatever. At some point, he must see me out of the corner of his eye. Obviously, Aaron has, amazing peripheral vision. And so Aaron just sees me over there, reaches out his hand and says, hey, Matthew, I'm Aaron.
That is so fucking cool.
And totally puts me at ease. And I'm just like, how the hell do you know who I am? And he's like, honestly, all I watch is ESPN. HBO and ESPN, that's all I watch.
Fuck.
And I'm
That's
like, oh my
amazing.
God, thank you. And he's just like, you know, like I saw what you said like last week, and like he quoted like me back to me, you know, and says
Wow.
you're totally right on the analysis about, like, I said something about the Packers.
Oh my God.
That's so
Like
cool.
the most awesome, down to earth guy that if you just dropped in from planet Mars and didn't know that guy was like, you'd be like, oh, what a normal, cool guy hanging out at the bar talking football.
That's fucking awesome.
That's a good story to.
Isn't it cool?
Yes.
That's a good story to end on.
Yeah.
Matthew, we've taken up like an hour of your time.
I know. And I love it that like we're in these positions where we get those like moments of people that we could never have imagined. And the fact that he fucking knew exactly who you were. Oh, how gratifying.
Yeah, right. It was just so cool. And so it made me, you know, that could have gone so many different ways. He could have kind of blown me off. He could have, right, you know, but he made me feel not like kind of the douchey stalker that I probably was at the moment, but made me just feel really good and was, you know, unbelievably kind. And it was just sort of an amazing moment, and just, you know, basically underscored everything I've always heard about him, which is that he's just an awesome dude. You know, in addition to, like, obviously he's great at football, but he's just like an awesome dude. He's just super cool, you know, very chill. And like, I was a big fan before that. And then I walked away like, dude, you can do no wrong in my book. And so, and it's lucky, I'm happy that he happens to be as great at football as he is. So I never have to say anything bad about him on TV, because, you know, the guy is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
But you're still ranking Cam Newton in front of him.
Hey, don't do that.
I know. Well, Cam runs more. That's the thing.
There you go. I'm only kidding. I'm kidding. No, Cam is definitely the number one quarterback you draft before Aaron. Aaron should be afterwards.
So, and hey, I would love to say to your audience, because I know mostly women listen to this, I would love for you, just try. I promise you it's not scary. You will enjoy it. It is something you can do. There's probably a man in your life that plays fantasy football, whether it's a father, a brother, a husband, a boyfriend, a son, a coworker. There's probably a man in your life that plays fantasy football. Ask that person to teach you about it, try it, just get into a league, get into a league with people that have never played before.
This.
I promise you it's not scary. It's super easy. It's fun. You can do it for free on ESPN.com. We have a new app that you can download for free. It makes it super simple. So I'll leave you guys with this, Anna. And so this is why, Anna, I want you to join a league. Because my goal this year, so I wrote this article on ESPN.com called Draft Day Manifesto, and I ended it by saying, like, this should be everyone who reads this article's goal, is to invite one person that you know that doesn't play fantasy football to join this year, because it's so much fun. It's very inclusive.
I agree.
It's a great bonding experience for families, for kids, for people of all ages. And so invite one person in this world, because once they try it, they'll be like, oh, I get it. Now I understand why 50 million people play this thing, why it's so huge. So, Sim, I'm putting it on you. Since you play,
I'm doing it. This is absolutely.
You got to get Anna into a league.
I'm doing it. I'm totally on this. Matthew, I'm so happy we got to do this with Matthew, because this is exactly what the goal was for me. I wanted this so badly.
The whole reason why Sim wanted to start this podcast was to talk to you,
exactly.
Matthew.
I wanted to see him in person, but you know what? Talking to him on the phone is...
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And you know what? I'll be bugging you if you don't mind.
We'll be in touch over email, and I'm going to talk to Chris, and I'm sure he's going to be so excited with the fact that you're going to be his personal coach.
It's absolutely my pleasure. So, like I said, I want to promote fantasy football, so I want him to have a great experience at it. I don't want him to, 6 months from now being like, that sucked. And Anna, if you join a league, I will do it for you as well.
Oh, my God. I could not adore you more. You just are the best. Can't thank you enough.
Let's stay in touch, Matthew. Thank you so much, and good luck this season. It's going to be great.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Good night.
Sim, how does the NFL theme song go? Isn't there like a...
Well, I mean, every channel, whether it's Fox has a different...
Olympics.
Fox has a different theme song.
Yeah, how does that go? That's like the machine.
Oh, I can't do it. No, I'm not going to do it. I don't know.
Mike?
No, Mike doesn't know. It's just...
Mike doesn't know.
All right. So we should end this thing right now. Let's end it right now. End it. Do it. End it.
I guess it's all over, folks. Good night and good luck.